I never wanted to be like him, yet here I am, surrounded by the remnants of his life. Boxes of broken promises and lies, echoing in the silence. The inheritance he left feels like a sickness, winding its way through my spirit, leaving nothing but hollow disbelief. He always told me how proud he was to have me as his son, a sentiment that wrapped around my heart like a life vest through the chaos of growing up. It anchored me, even as the world spun in dizzying complexity. Yet, standing in that cramped lawyer's office, the bond one cherished splintered with a single signature. The pen's hollow click resonated like a death knell in the silence. Through a haze of legal jargon, one truth stood painfully clear. The house, the essence of my childhood, was willed to his new wife. Just like that, I realized I was no longer a pillar in his life, merely a shadow, eclipsed by a woman I barely knew. The betrayal gnawed at me, anger bubbling beneath my skin like a poison, yet questions cut deeper. Why was I cast aside so easily? The front door swings open, revealing an eerie museum of my past. This place was once bursting with colors alive, with laughter bouncing off the walls, a symphony of a life once lived. Now, it's draped in neutral grays and sterile whites, as if someone bled the vitality from it. Each step I take across the wooden floors unleashes a symphony of creaks that were once a backdrop to my childhood, but today feel like the whispers of restless ghosts. In the hallway, the wallpaper is new, a sterile pattern replacing the fun, vibrant stripes my brother and I spent hours tracing with our fingers, pretending they were racetracks. It's as if someone has scrubbed away the story of us, painted over our adventures with a colorless brush. There, right there on the wall, used to hang a family portrait, smiles frozen in time. Now, it's just a blank space, a gaping mouth silently swallowing our history. I brush my fingers over the spot, hoping to feel some trace of the past, some residual warmth. But the wall is cold, unyielding. My legs carry me further, almost on autopilot, through corridors we once raced through, blindfolded and giggling. It all seems so absurd now, the echoes of our laughter replaced by the quiet austerity of a life devoid of us. Each room is a punch to the gut, a reminder of the life chapters that have been forcibly closed, despite my desperate attempts to linger on their pages. Entering the living room, I stop and let the memories wash over me. The couch, a stark black leather monstrosity, sits where our cozy floral one did. I can almost see us, young and carefree, sprawled out, plotting our next grand misadventure. I hear his voice, teasing one moment, serious the next, a phantom presence in a room he no longer inhabits. A wave of betrayal crashes over me. How could these walls let someone else in, let them bleach out our life, our sound, our scent? It's like the house welcomed the change, gladly renouncing its role as guardian of our memories. Every corner, every creak of the floorboard whispers his absence, mocking the illusion that this house had room enough for the both of us. Only the floor below my feet seems unchanged, its grooves and scars narrating stories of fiestas and falls, of dance-offs and wrestling matches. I kneel, pressing my palm flat against the hardwood, hoping to feel the vibrations of those echoes, the warmth of past joys. A single tear escapes, tracing a weary path down my cheek as I rise, shaky but determined. I head toward the staircase, toward the rooms upstairs, where his presence still lingers, stubbornly refusing to be erased entirely. I need to see, to feel, to understand what remains of us within these walls, before they, too, speak the language of strangers. The cemetery is silent, save for the soft rustle of leaves in the breeze that seems to whisper secrets long buried. I stand at the edge of the familiar plot, the cold gray stone before me etched with a name I've both loved and loathed. My father. The earth damp beneath my knees as I sink slowly, bitter air stinging my cheeks, breathing in the piercing scent of autumn's decay. This is where I feared and longed to be all at once. You promised you'd always be there. I begin, my voice breaking the hush as if daring the dead to speak back. Why am I here, pressing words into the void when they were never heard in life? The soil feels gritty against my fingers, anchoring me to everything unresolved. Pictures from the past flit through my mind, his laughter ringing through Sunday mornings, overshadowed by the stale silence of afternoons hiding in shadows. Anger wells up, hot and sour, clenching like a fist around my heart. Those were your words, yet here I am, grasping at shadows. The absurdity of it all tastes bitter on my tongue. His absence looms larger than his presence ever did, an unending echo of questions that swirl like ghosts. My breath comes hard, the chill biting deeper than I care to admit, gnawing at the edges of my composure. What was it, Dad? Was it me? I don't expect answers. None arise from the mute earth. The bitterness drips, each word a lifeline thrown into an abyss that remains untethered. I squeeze my eyes shut against the flood of memories that refuse to stay buried. The arguments, the distance, his silence that could fill oceans. That silence stretches now, deeper than grief, wider than the chasm between us and life. I'm here, desperate for something I cannot articulate, seeking absolution or a doorway back to what could never be repaired. My voice softens, a thin thread connecting me to the past. Did you ever mean a single word? Each question feels like unearthing a landmine, dormant until disturbed by the weight of too many years of unspoken truths. Apologies hover at the back of my throat, along with curses, neither of which find their way out. I'm choking on the knowledge that all my words dissipate into the nothingness from which no answers return. Were you as scared as I am now, all along? It's not a question meant to be answered, perhaps a confession of my own fears hidden in plain sight. Time hangs suspended, cold seeping into my bones, as I wait, hoping for warmth, for coherence, or even just a breeze carrying some sign that he hears me at last. But the cemetery remains silent, unyielding. I lower my head, resting it on the stone, listening to my heartbeat echo, alone, as it always was, even in his presence. The past clenches tight, refusing to release, as I brush the earth and speak words that sink deeper into the silence. Her laughter cuts through the air like shattered glass. Hi, sweet, rehearsed, a symphony I'm sure she's composed by now. I stand at the edge of this familiarity, clutching onto my champagne flute as if it's the last remnant tethering me to this world, a world that seems to warp more with each giggle that cascades from her painted lips. I'm an afterthought here, or perhaps less than that, a wisp of a memory, fading into the shadows of relatives exchanging smiles and whispers, everyone careful not to let their eyes linger on me for too long. Once I belonged here, could feel the warmth of shared history and blood binding us all. Now, her presence sprawls across my family's affections, like ivy wrapping around old stone, its roots digging into what should have been enduring and unshakable. I watch as she leans towards my father, her hand lightly touching his arm, drawing laughter from him with words I don't hear, but can feel all too well. I'm hollowed out by the spectacle of her weaving herself into a fabric that used to weave me. A family gathering, stuffed with traditions, now rendered foreign. I'm a shadow at my own table, her glow casting me aside effortlessly. Do you want more champagne? Her voice catches me, and for a second the room stills. I look up, her smile a veneer of friendliness, eyes searching mine, daring me almost. I manage a nod, the weight of pretense settling on my chest as she steps closer to refill my glass. The gesture is laced with performative intimacy, further splintering the fragile peace I cling to. It's suffocating, the way she commands attention with the slightest flick of her wrist or tilt of her head. Every anecdote she generously offers adds another layer to the wall, pushing me farther from those who used to know me best. With each contribution to the conversation, she molds herself further into their lives, becoming indispensable somehow. To them, I'm invisible, a ghost at my own family table, drowned out by her manufactured warmth. The ache in my chest tightens, and I realize it's resentment, raw, throbbing, demanding recognition. Perhaps they've chosen to ignore my discomfort, or maybe they've truly been dazzled to my inexistence. I could stand now, could clear my throat and speak, but what use would my voice be, a whisper against her siren call? Every smile she wears, every nod she receives, gnaws at something deep inside, until the resentment becomes an alien yet familiar companion. She offers tales of her accomplishments, carefully veiling her masterstrokes of manipulation. And the room dances to her tune, a jarring melody in my ears. I make a silent promise, one I know no one at this table would hear or believe. This doesn't end with her victory. Justice, a concept abstract yet concrete in this space of silent accusers, whispers its invitation. I clink glasses with her, feeling the cold slide of champagne against my throat, my resolve coating it with the bitter taste of determination. The office envelopes me in a sterile chill, every corner sharp and clean, a stark contrast to the chaos swirling in my head. I sit in the leather chair, its surface slick and cool under my clammy hands. The lawyer, a wiry figure, sits across from me in an immaculate suit, her pen poised like an executioner's blade. "We need to talk about the estate," she begins, her voice a clipped monotone, as though discussing the weather. But every word she utters is a nail in the coffin of what I thought I knew about him, my father. The man who once held me up on his shoulders, laughing like we had all the time in the world. I lean forward, every muscle in my body taut with disbelief. There must be some mistake. I manage, my voice barely above a whisper. The room seems to constrict around us, the walls closing in until I can barely breathe. Her eyes, impassive and cool, flicker over a stack of papers. "There isn't," she replies. The legalese spills from her lips, a labyrinth of responsibilities, omissions, and cold calculations. He didn't update the will. The distribution was clear. Clear. I repeat, a bitter laugh escaping my throat. The word tastes of betrayal and forgotten promises. My father's face flashes before my eyes, his smile now a cruel caricature, mocking my ignorance. He wouldn't do this. But she doesn't flinch. This is her territory, a battlefield of logic and duty, and I am an unwelcome intruder. These are binding, incontestable. She continues, her words as relentless as a tide. You might consider preparing for. Her voice trails off, leaving the unspoken words to echo ominously in the hollow air. I close my eyes for a moment, trying to imagine what went through his mind. Was I not enough to warrant a second thought, a consideration beyond the pragmatic? Every turn leads to another dead end, questions that gnaw at my insides like a persistent ache. You're telling me there's nothing I can do? My voice rises, desperation slicing through the stony calm of the room. She pauses, a shift as fleeting as it is damning. I'm afraid so. The pang of finality strikes deep, and I'm left grappling with the tatters of my resolve. The world I thought was mine unravels with every passing heartbeat. All that's left is the cold certainty of paper and ink, written memories of who mattered most. I stand abruptly, the chair scraping the floor in protest. The lawyer glances up, a brief moment of shared humanity in her otherwise clinical gaze. But there's nothing more to say, no sympathy to be found in this rigid fortress of bureaucracy. Outside, the city hums with indifferent life, teeming with stories untold. I step into the sunlight, its warmth barely breaking through the storm inside me. As I start down the street, I feel each step weighed with the burden of discovering a truth I'm not sure I can bear. The path ahead is uncertain, shrouded in shadowy questions that demand answers. And I have no choice but to follow where they lead. I hadn't expected to see Eric in a place like this, tucked back in the corner of the bar, under the dim yellow glow of lights that seen too many nights. Still, there he was, face lit with a bathed warmth, as though no time had passed since we last lost ourselves in laughter under the same sky. "Hey, stranger," his voice cut through the murmur, resting comfortably in the space between us. His eyes crinkled at the corners, mapping out memories we two alone still shared. I slid onto the stool next to him, our knees bumping in awkward familiarity. "Long time," I managed, shaking off the surprise threaded through the moment. He tipped his beer bottle toward me, a gesture filled not with distance, but invitation. "Remember that summer we tried building a treehouse? Hours lost to hammer and nail, only to have the whole thing collapse." His laughter, deep and unrestrained, washed over me, pulling me back to sun-drenched afternoons, our hands sticky with sap. The air was always sweet with the scent of possibility back then, something I hadn't tasted in a long time. "Yeah, and we both swore we'd live there forever." I chuckled, a piece of the boy I used to be hitching a ride on my voice, despite myself. Eric leaned back, letting his chair teeter, flirting with gravity in a way that seemed emblematic of how we used to live. "Those were days, he mused, eyes anchoring onto memories like a scrapbook flipped open. The ease of the back and forth lulled me, crafting a pocket of peace amid the noise. We swapped stories of our youthful conspiracies, letting the tender details trickle over us, smoothing out the wear time had etched into our faces. At one point, it was his mention of how we'd stretch dusk just to catch the fading light in its most vibrant defiance of night that curled around my heart, squeezing gently with a bittersweet pressure. A vivid reminder of how simple things used to be, unburdened by the what-ifs and just maybes that define our present. Do you ever wonder what could have been? Eric murmured, his gaze drifting. In those words, I caught the tail end of dreams threaded with both longing and resignation. It struck a chord, that seismic shift between what we'd envisioned and where life had ushered us instead. I nodded, murmuring a soft agreement. All the time, this moment, stolen from the intricate humor meals of our days, felt both full and fragile, each shared revelation a stone dropped into the echoing well of our shared past. Eric's return to my world provided a brief shelter, a gentle detour from a path lined with weary realism. But there it was again, the acknowledgement of innocence lost, and the sprawling complexities of who we'd become. The wistful comfort of history holding hands with present uncertainties. As we tipped our bottles in a silent toast to yesterdays, the unspoken lingered, whispering promises only the past can keep. The cafe is a sliver of calm amid the chaos of my mind, filled with the low hum of chatters and clinking cups. My fingers curl around the warmth of the coffee mug as I watch the private investigator unpack his briefcase. Each click of a latch, every rustle of paper, syncs with my heart's steady pounding. The air is heavy with unasked questions. Thought you might want to sit down for this. His voice is gruff, like gravel under a boot. Yet there's a gentleness in his eyes, a calm before the storm. He slides a manila folder across the table. It sits between us like forbidden fruit. My hand hesitates over the top, feeling the weight of every doubt and suspicion I've tried to swallow. Go on, open it, he urges, and I see the glint of something like sympathy in his eyes. Taking a deep breath, I flick open the folder. Photographs are scattered across the table like leaves in the autumn wind. She's in every one. My wife, smiling, laughing, living a life I thought I knew. But here in these snapshots, shadows whisper secrets. My stomach tightens as I stare at an unfamiliar man standing too close, their interaction laced with an unspoken intimacy. Each photograph, a clue, each rumor a spark. The puzzle pieces slide insidiously into place. I dug up a lot of dirt, he says, his fingers tapping softly on the table. Witnesses from years back. An old flame. A business, under someone else's name. They've painted a different picture. His words are like cold hands gripping my spine. I flip through pages of records and receipts, my mind cataloging betrayal. The dates align too neatly. The numbers tell tales too cruel to be ignored. I look up at him, my voice strained, struggling against disbelief. Is this all true? His nod is slow, deliberate. I verified everything twice. She's good. I'll give her that. Or maybe it's better to say calculated. My chest is a battlefield of emotions. Anger clashes with a sorrow, so deep it feels like drowning. The life I've built crumbles silently beneath the weight of evidence. Yet beneath the little insecurities and heartbreak, determination ignites, sparks catching on tinder-dry resolve. Thank you, I whisper, voice barely cutting through the coziness of the cafe. It's a simple acknowledgement, but carries the burden of shattered illusions and new resolve. This is more than betrayal, it's a call to arms. As I gather the documents, strategic thoughts thread through the wreckage of my unmet expectations. She'll expect fear and indecision. She won't anticipate what's coming next. The investigator leans back, observing the hardening of my resolve. Take care of yourself, he says softly. I nod absent-mindedly, already lost in thoughts of my next steps. The warmth of the cafe now a stark contrast to the chill of realization settling inside. As I leave the cafe, the folder tucked securely under my arm, a resolute calm descends. The path ahead is littered with thorns, but I'm ready to navigate every treacherous step. We sat across from each other, a simple wooden table separating us like a fragile barrier against the escalating storm. Her eyes flickered with that practiced warmth, lips curled into a smile as if testing its strength. The room felt small, walls closing in, somehow amplifying the silence that stretched between us, heavy with unspoken intentions. I see through your smile. There's calculus in your kindness, every word like a carefully placed pawn. I finally said, my voice steady despite the chaos inside. Her smile faltered, just a flicker, a crack in the porcelain mask she wore with such practiced precision. She leaned back slightly, fingers twitching around the delicate china teacup, the soft click of ceramic against wood resonating like a distant echo. You've always had a vivid imagination, she replied smoothly, the edge of steel in her voice just discernible if you knew where to listen. I felt a warmth spreading through my chest, a peculiar mix of anger and relief. She wasn't going to play the innocent. This was the match I needed to spark the truth into flames. Do you think it's just imagination when everyone else sees it too? My words hung in the air, a challenge and a plea wrapped in one messy package. I watched her, searching for a sign, a crack that would let me peer into whatever twisted reality she crafted. She sighed deeply, like an actress tired of playing the same scene over and over. People see what they want to see, she offered, eyes narrowing slightly. And hear what they want to hear. I shot back, leaning forward, drawn into a confrontation that felt inevitable and necessary. Silence followed, tense and palpable, each second thickening, coiling tighter as if we were on a slowly turning spit, roasting ourselves in this moment. Her fingers stilled, cup poised midair, the slightest tremor betraying something deeper. What do you want from me? She asked, her tone vacillating between genuine curiosity and defensive impatience. I hesitated, the words lodged in my throat like a jagged stone. I need to understand why you did it, I whispered, feeling the raw edges of that need cut into me. Her eyes, usually so composed, flared for a brief second, an ember caught in the winds. Understanding isn't always the answer, she said, almost tenderly, and for a moment there was something real, unmasked, in those words. The tension hummed between us, alive and pulsing, and for the first time, she seemed vulnerable, her facade eroding in the charged atmosphere. It felt like standing on a cliff edge, knowing the fall would be long and crushing, but drawn irresistibly forward by some magnetic force. I exhaled, words chose me without permission. Then what is? Her lips pressed into a thin line, gaze distant as if looking far beyond, reaching for something invisible, unreachable. In that moment, I realized, maybe neither of us knew the truth any better than the other. But the need to find out simmered on, relentless and unyielding. The attic door creaks like it's admitting a secret. Dust catches the dim light, swirling in chaotic patterns as I climb inside. It's quiet, overwhelmingly so, a hush that might be peaceful if it weren't so heavy with ghosts. I run a finger along the edge of my grandmother's old rocking chair, the wood smooth from decades of gentle wear. I can almost hear her voice, soft and lilting, telling forgotten stories of people long gone. This is where I come when the world outside feels too sharp to touch. As I step carefully around the boxes, each ritualistic movement seems to uncover pieces of a lost world. Those yellowed photographs are more than images, they're portals. In one, my father smiles from behind a camera, caught in an unguarded moment of youthful exuberance. I linger on his face, tracing every line and curve, searching for pieces of myself within the pixels. The air is musty, tinged with the scent of aged paper and wood, but it wraps around me like a long-lost embrace. I lower myself onto the wooden floor, pulling a box closer, its label faded with time. Inside, fragile mementos speak volumes. Letters tied with ribbon, postcards with whispers of distant summers, and a locket that never found its way back to the neck it belonged to. I open a letter at random, the paper whispering its secrets. My father's handwriting stirs echoes of his voice in my head, pen strokes revealing not just words, but wishes that never found their way to daylight. My fingers tremble on the paper, a curious meld of grief and longing anchoring me to this forgotten family altar. Yet, amidst the sorrow, there's something else, a flicker of resilience. Each relic I touch adds another fiber to a thread I can hold on to. Amongst the yellowed photographs and fragile mementos, I find fragments of strength waiting to be pieced together. It's as if they're telling me I'm part of something larger, a continuum that doesn't end with betrayal or the wounds that came uninvited into my life. The attic light flickers as a gust rattles the window. I tighten my grip around the locket, feeling its cool metal heartbeat against my palm. Acceptance isn't forgiveness, I think. It's more about acknowledging the scars as part of my story, unfinished chapters that I will continue to write with renewed tenacity. Somehow, in this quiet sanctuary, surrounded by the whispers of those who've loved and lost before me, I feel an unexpected clarity. I can choose what happens next. The decision unfolds slowly but firmly in my mind, nudging me forward even as I sit amid these aging echoes. I uncurl my fingers from the locket, a sudden resolve flowing through me. It's time to descend the narrow attic staircase and face what comes next. The past has spoken, yes, but now it's my voice that needs to be heard. The air cools my skin, crisp and soothing as I rest on the grass, staring up at the vastness of the night sky. It's a kind of darkness that feels less heavy, almost comforting. Each star is a distant companion in a universe that suddenly feels less empty and more embracing, as though it's been patiently waiting for me to realize the expanse of possibility right above my head. For the first time in a long while, my mind isn't crowded with echoes of the past. Instead, there's a gentle, tentative peace spreading through me. I can sense every breath, feel the simplicity of the rise and fall of my chest, as if even my body is learning the rhythm of letting go. Under these stars, I whisper, my gaze fixed on the shimmering lights. I cast off the shadows you left behind. This life is mine to write anew. The words hang in the air, a promise breathed to the universe, to my father, and most importantly, to myself. It's not about forgiving him or forgetting the scars his choices etched into my life. Those memories have their place, embedded deeply but no longer anchors, not weights keeping me tethered to the bitterness that once consumed me. Instead, they are parts of a complex mosaic, each piece a lesson, a reminder of the resilience I've cultivated despite him. I shift slightly, feeling the cool blades of grass beneath me. They're damp, yet grounding in their innocence. I close my eyes, drawing in the night air, letting it rush through me, an intoxicating mix of freedom and fear. Freedom from the anger, despite that fueled so many rebellious fires inside me, and fear of a future unwritten, unshaped by his shadows. Tonight, it's not about rejecting him. It's about finding me. The girl who always doubted, who questioned her worth because of a father who couldn't see beyond his demons, transforming quietly into a woman defining herself. Not lost, but found among the stars, the endless promises they hold for new beginnings. I think about the things I want, the life I dare to imagine now. A life unshackled by old fears, paved with choices made from hope instead of hurt. There's an unfamiliar excitement fluttering in my chest, a new kind of warmth spreading through this release. This understanding that the chains have always been within my grasp to unlock. Opening my eyes, I see the sky hasn't changed, steady, eternal in its glittering tapestry. And for the first time, the constellations align not in accordance with his stories and sins, but with a truth I'm finally ready to claim. The wind rustles softly through the trees, a gentle applause for this quiet revolution inside me. It's a start, maybe even an end in its own right. And as I rise, the stars seem to wink in understanding, bearing witness to this newfound promise, this singular step toward a life that's finally, resolutely mine.